All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian Henson from ExpressTruckTax. Today we have a special treat. We're going to do a webinar with special guest Jim O'Donnell. He is the founder and CEO of Trucker Tax Service, and he's going to go over a few things with us briefly, and then we're going to open it up for questions with him. Just before we get started, anyone who may be new to GoToMeeting, this is just a brief overview of your control panel that we're using here. So you have a couple options on here. If you want to get it off your screen, you can click that little arrow button to hide the control panel. You can also, everyone should be muted from the start, so you don't have to really worry about this one. And then there's some screen preferences. And then later when we do the Q&A session, you can use this little option to raise your hand, and I can actually unmute you to ask questions over the air for Jim. And then over here, if you just want to type in your questions, you'll notice there is a little questions box. So feel free to type any questions in there throughout the webinar, and then we will get to them at the end of the session when we do the Q&A. So without further ado, this is Save Time and Money on Your Taxes This Year with Jim O'Donnell. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jim to you. He's the, again, president and CEO of Trucker Tax Service. They are a national company that serves the truck driving community with fast and secure financial tracking and tax services. They also provide monthly bookkeeping, revenue, and expense tracking, and a lot more. So they've been around for quite some time, and Jim is very knowledgeable, and he is going to get us started today. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Happy to be here. Okay, so I'm off?
You were off.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. What I'm going to do is we're going to try to make this as swift as possible through just a handful of slides, just to kind of give you guys a real brief overview of what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, and so forth. So what we want to do is we want to get to the question and answer period as quickly as possible, because I know that's where the most important part happens. And so make sure that you guys, if you don't have something ready to go right now, start thinking about it. Think about questions that you can be firing away at me, and we'll address those as best we can. So here we go. What the biggest problem is with, this isn't just for over-the-road drivers. This is pretty much Americans as a whole. The ignorance is bliss is such a true statement, because what we hear so often is drivers calling us that haven't done a tax return for not only a single year but multiple years, and the only time they ever really get around to actually completing that tax return is after the IRS has contacted them. If anybody on the call right now has a situation like that, please give us a call and we can help you with it immediately. But in the meantime, what you want to do is avoid that. The IRS is not your enemy. They actually just want properly completed tax returns, and they want them completed on time. And right now, time is of the essence, because we're only about 2 weeks before tax season is over again. Now, what we're doing here, wow, that moves slow. Okay, the owing taxes is actually a good thing. What I'm going to do, I didn't want to try to read it, but when we say owing taxes, a lot of drivers out there, we hear this over and over when a driver calls that, oh my gosh, I owe $5,000, I owe $10,000. I mean, we have drivers that owe $20,000 plus per year. Well, it's actually a good thing, because that means that you're successful. So now what we need to do is just manage those taxes. If you're paying a great deal in tax, that means that you're doing good. You're successful. Now what you need to do is just work with somebody so you can track those properly, get quarterly payments done, and so forth. When you're out there as an owner-operator, a person under their own authority, what's happening is you're not having any taxes removed from your paychecks each week, and I'm sure all of you understand that. But the problem is most don't pay attention to it tightly enough. And what they end up doing is get to the end of the year, they get their taxes done, and they're like, oh crap, what am I going to do? Where am I going to come up with this money to pay the taxes? And that's where we would kick in to help you in that situation. What you want to do is you want to keep monthly bookkeeping. You need to track where you spend all that money. You need to track where you stay each night, so you can get your per diem accounted for properly. You need to invest in some type of technology, because you guys are on the road. Unless you have a big old-fashioned journal where you're writing down every single expense every day, you really need to have some type of technology where you can, as it says right here, make it your friend, make it work for you. We're in a great time right now where technology can certainly be your friend and help you manage your business properly. Now, the biggest common tax issues, not understanding what's deductible, is by far the largest thing, the largest problem that's faced by most drivers. Most drivers are told over and over by individuals, and it could even be professional tax people, that a certain expense is not deductible when in reality it is. The bottom line is if you purchased it to go on the road with you, or if you purchased it while on the road, most likely it's a deduction for you. And of course that includes everything else, any kind of maintenance, anything that you've done, anything you purchased for, like the sleeper, anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be just fuel and the major maintenance to the truck. Anything you're purchasing becomes an expense, and you need to make sure that you're capturing all those expenses. What you also need to do is make sure you're working with somebody that understands the trucking industry. When you put your trust in a bookkeeping service, or worse yet, somebody that does your taxes that doesn't understand the trucking industry, I can almost guarantee you guys are leaving a lot of money on the table. We have spoken to thousands of drivers over the years that have either paid in, or actually that is exactly what they've done. They've paid in a lot of cases, thousands of dollars more per year than what they actually owe. And it's because they're not working with an individual that understands the industry. We've heard a gazillion times over the years that drivers were told by the tax preparer, I can't put this down. I can't put down $100,000 in expense. You're going to get audited immediately. That is absolutely wrong. If it's an expense that belongs to you, put it down. We've had drivers get audited because of the simple fact that we, take care of them properly. We've never, ever had to meet with the IRS because we've always taken care of the driver via all the paperwork and so forth that they produced for us and we've produced for them. It's never, ever been an issue. Now, the other big thing, and I touched on it just a moment ago too, is you need to set up quarterly payments to the IRS. As an independent business out there, you own your own business, the IRS requires that you make quarterly payments. What we would do we'll get to that here in just a little bit, with a bookkeeping issue, if not us, anybody, what you need to do is be calculating what you owe, approximately what you owe every quarter, and then talking to somebody like ourselves, a tax professional. We'll work out exactly how much of a payment you need to be sending into the IRS. It's twofold. First of all, it's getting the IRS off your back, and second, it's managing your tax flow where you don't have to try to come up with that huge number at the end of the year as you've paid it throughout, 4 separate payments. Now, and we're going to harp on this all the time, most drivers out there do not have successful bookkeeping whatsoever. They don't keep track of their business. If you owned a dry cleaning business or a gas station or a convenience store or something like that, I mean, you're going to have daily and at the very least weekly bookkeeping to manage that business. Well, you guys are out there. The average owner-operator, guy with his own authority, is going to earn as much as one of those businesses I just mentioned on an annual basis. Yet you don't, the average driver out there just doesn't take care of it like they should. And what happens is thousands of dollars goes right out the window because they're not being managed properly. The first bullet point there is always get yourself one credit card, one debit card that you use for business exclusively. Everything you buy, I don't care if you go in and buy $5 packet of batteries, use the debit card. That way, if you happen to lose the receipt, you still have a paper trail that you can go after that. You always want to try to track everything, track your money and so forth. Get yourself, everybody out there these days has a smartphone. Get yourself a smartphone app that you can track all of these expenses, and better yet, your money. so many drivers out there, huge percentage of drivers that we've spoken to over the years. When we talk to them, they could be extremely successful, but they have absolutely no idea what their profit margin is. They have no idea where their tax liability is, and it's simply because they're not tracking their money properly. What you want to do is you need to do it often. That's the biggest key. Not even once a month. I mean, we have a program here that we did for years that was monthly, which was good. It kept the driver on top of it, but you really need to be doing it daily. That's what you want to be doing. What we've done here is with TruckLogix here, with Brian and his group, we've started a new service here, and it's called Tap App. Tap App, what it is our program, which is Truckers Advantage program, their app. They're the technology company. We're the accounting people. We're the tax people. What you're going to do is you're going to have the ability to put this app right on your smartphone. You can download or capture expenses daily, capture income daily, all of your miles daily. It's everything right there at your fingertips. What I tell every driver that's signed up for this, I mean, you can literally, you get done with the day's work, you sit down to have yourself a meal, you can literally put in the 2 or 3 expenses you had that day before you even order that meal, and it's done. That's how easy it'll be to capture everything. Now, the best part is also is that with this app, and once it's loaded on your phone, you have all that at your fingertips, you also have full access to our office. You can call in here speaking with somebody like myself. In fact, I almost was going to be late getting on this call because I was on the phone with a Tap App client going through some questions that he had about, you know, can I enter this? Is this a legitimate expense? That's the kind of questions we answer all day long to let you know, yes, that is, or perhaps no. You know, it typically it's yes, but sometimes, you know, we'll just explain how it's doing. And I don't know, every company out there has a different way of providing settlement statements and so forth. We can review those settlement statements for you. We can actually decipher what they're trying to tell you and explain it to you and get those, you know, put into the system properly. Now, the app itself, what it'll do, it produces not only that daily and monthly bookkeeping, but it's going to produce a profit and loss statement for you. From that profit and loss statement, it's going to break it all the way down to show you exactly not only what your net income is, and this is your net taxable income, not necessarily the income that goes into the bank, but the taxable income. Not only that, but it's going to show you how much you're earning every mile you're on the road. This is a great tool because now you have a snapshot of exactly how profitable you are. You're looking at that and you're going, okay, I net, after all expenses, fuel, everything, I'm netting, you know, 40 cents a mile. I'm just making numbers up now. But you can look at that and go, okay, 40 cents a mile, if I just push that an extra 50 miles a day, it doesn't sound like a lot. It's only 20 bucks more a day. But if you take that at 300 days on the road for the year, suddenly you've earned $6,000 more, and that's net in your pocket. That's the beauty of an app like this that's right there at your fingertips that you can pull up anytime. You're sitting there waiting for a load to get loaded. Just boom, boom, put in your couple of expenses, you pull that P&L, you're done, and now you have your business managed. And the other thing, too, is that not only we're going to do ongoing bookkeeping and access to our offices here to talk about anything within your business, anything tax related, anything financially related, we'll be here for you. But we're also going to provide all of the year-end tax reporting, anything that is tax related. And then the best part is with this program, at the end of the year, we'll complete your taxes for you at no additional charge. And it's since we already have all of that information captured for you throughout the year, it's going to be a very, very easy process for you to complete. Most drivers don't complete their tax returns because it becomes too overwhelming for them. You get something like this going, you sign up for something like Tap App, what you do, you take that load right off your shoulders, and now you're doing it daily, and it's such an easy process, 30 seconds a day, and you're done. So it's just what you want to do. Now, I'm sorry, I kind of clicked to a slide here a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but what we're going to do right now, because it's the end of March, we only have 2 weeks left before taxes are due. I'm assuming several of you on this call right now haven't done anything with your taxes, hence why you're on this call. If you are in that situation, there's ways that you can do this. What you can do, you can contact our office, and I'll have contact information here at the end of the slides how you can get a hold of us, and we'll file an extension for you, or a sister company of TruckLogix. It's called Tax Bandits right here on the slide, taxbandits.com. You can get on there and electronically do it yourself, just right through there, and it's right there, the form 4868. It's how you file for a personal tax extension. If you don't file for a tax extension, what happens is if you owe any money, I don't care if you owe $10, when we do your taxes later in the year, you're going to get hit with a late filing penalty. And you can avoid that by simply filing a tax extension. And once again, you can do it through us, or you can do it yourself right online there through taxbandits.com. It's a very easy process for you guys. All we would do is just take a little bit of information over the phone from you, who you are, where you live, social security number. If you're married, we would need your spouse's name and social security number as well. And that's really about it. And we can get that extended for you, and then you have another full 6 months before you have to get that done. But now see, if you start using a technology like TapApp, you don't have to worry about getting your taxes extended because they'd already be done right now. So now, this is what I think we're really pretty much at the end. I wanted to run through that as fast as possible. I did pretty good, about 15 minutes, so not too bad. What we want to do now is start taking any types of questions and, any kind of questions that you guys have, and I'd be happy to, address anything. So now I'm going to hand this back over to Brian and let him do this because he's got the technology here in his hand. So if you guys have questions whatsoever, either, I think there was 2 different options there. You can either type it and send it in, or somehow unmute your phone and you guys can start talking to us that way.
Okay, I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you for that little introduction. Again, as Jim said, you guys can start asking questions now. We didn't want to bore you too much with tax talk, so we're going to get to the meat of things and let you guys answer any questions you have. So again, your go-to-meeting panel, I'm going to bring that back up here just a second. Let me get back to it. Just to remind you guys how this little part works. Okay, so you have the control panel. You can use the little raise your hand button to ask a question, and I will unmute you, and you can ask it over the air. If you're not comfortable doing that, or you don't want to do that, you can also use the little questions box to type in a question. So please feel free to go ahead and ask away, and Jim will be more than happy to answer questions. Let's see. All right, we've got a first question here, Jim.
Okay.
This is from Deborah, and she wants to know the cost of the TAP app. Is it a monthly cost or is it an annual cost?
Oh, I kind of blew right by that, didn't I? Okay, TAP app, what it is, it's $75 per month is what it is. And what that does include, of course, is the app itself where you can capture all those expenses and so forth, and those unlimited calls into our office to talk about any type of accounting or tax issue, and that would include any back tax issues as well. Once you're a TAP app client, you are our client, full client. You get your own personal accountant working for you, all the way up to a CPA, by the way. And at the end of the year, that $75, if you've paid it, throughout the full 12 months, you're going to get your taxes done at no additional charge. So it is a monthly fee, $75. Oh, and by the way, which I didn't touch on either, that $75 you easily pay for it within a given month just by capturing the little expenses. When you're out there, I remember I mentioned something about, a $5 packet of batteries. Well, you run in, you're fueling up, you run in, grab a deli sandwich or a hot dog or something like that, and grab that $5 packet of batteries for a flashlight. Well, that receipt doesn't tend to make it to the end of the week, let alone the end of the month, not to mention the end of the year. Well, if you do that every day with $5, just $5, which is very conservative, by the end of the year, you've thrown out $1,500 worth of expenses worth of receipts, which, per month equates to $125 per month on average, and that's a very conservative number, and the program's only $75. And by the way, the $75 is also a write-off, so it's a huge win for anybody that uses this program.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. All right, we got another question here from Jamie. Jamie's asking about per diem. How much can I count for a full day? He's asking, is it $63 or $51, Jim?
Okay, well, per diem right now, it's $63 per day. But when you complete a tax return, there's a schedule in there. It's called the 2106. And what it does is the IRS, as an over-the-road truck driver, see, $63 is across the board for anybody that's on the road for any type of business. A white-collar guy, over-the-road truck driver, whoever it may be, it's $63 a day. And then the IRS determines how much of that $63 each industry segment gets allotted. As an over-the-road truck driver, you're allotted 80% of that $63 or $50.40. So you were really close on that. That it's not quite 51. It's $50.40 is the net that you get each day that you're on the road. That's what you're going to get when you complete a tax return if you're using a tax professional that understands how to do that and complete that schedule that I talked about.
Awesome. And then we kind of have almost like a follow-up question, but it's from Amber. She's asking if the TAP app program tracks per diem, Jim.
It absolutely does. There's actually a GPS function to it that at the end of the day, I've had so many drivers tell me already that they love that. That's the first thing they do is once they've stopped for the day, they go boop, open it up. It captures your location and automatically logs that night on the road for you. So it's an awesome feature. And by the way, something else that the TAP app offers is the opportunity for you to take pictures of your receipts. So what you do is you open that up and that $5 packet of batteries I'm talking about, you put it in there, $5. You take a snapshot, from your phone. You just take a picture of that receipt. It's captured in the cloud, and it's all part of the service. And so now if that receipt does get lost, you have a trail of it that if the IRS ever wants to see it, well, it's captured forever in the cloud.
Awesome. Yep. No, that is super easy to use. Thank you for that, Amber. All right, we got another question from Deborah. She's asking if the fuel or DEF fuel is tax deductible.
Okay, and I'm sorry, is fuel or DEF fuel?
Yeah, DEF, that special separate fuel they put in the truck. So I guess she's asking if either or both are tax deductible.
She might be referring to reefer fuel, but this is, and I think you said it was Deborah. Deborah, any fuel, any expense is deductible. And to answer your question, the easy answer is yes. They're both going to be deductible. The way you want to look at it is if you purchased something that, would you have purchased this if it wasn't for your job? If the answer is no, no, I would not have purchased, fuel or fuel for the reefer or whatever it may be, like a $3 air freshener for the truck. You purchase that for your business, it becomes a deduction for you. That's the other thing too, and that's what the beauty about TAP app is you can be having conversations with somebody like myself, and I would be more than happy to spend as much time with you explaining all this. Too many drivers, big percentage of drivers out there miss out on so many of these smaller deductions that they just don't realize are available to them.
Awesome. We've got questions flowing in here, so I'm going to try to kind of roll through these a little bit. Here's one. Let's see, what is this person's name? Jared. It's asking about, what about the cost of a dog? I have one for protection. Is that tax deductible?
It is. Dogs now, what the IRS requires is that technically it's supposed to be a medium-sized dog. So if you have like a toy Chihuahua, it's probably not going to work. But you have anything from like a terrier or, I don't know, any medium-sized dog, anything that if you just described him as protection, then yes, absolutely, he's deductible. Anything you purchase for him, if you purchased the dog himself, if you had to pay some money for the dog, any dog food, any vet bills, anything like that, all of that is deductible for you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, that was Brenda, and she says it's a pit bull. So I'm assuming that's a yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That was Brenda's question, and it's that she has a pit bull, she said, so I'm assuming that's
Oh, a
a
pit
yes.
bull. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I didn't hear that one right. Okay, yeah, a pit bull would definitely qualify.
All right. All right, we have another question from Deborah, and it's back to that DEF fuel. That's a fuel additive. As a follow-up to that question before.
Then absolutely. Yeah, any fuel additives, anything like that. And once again, it just, you default back to, what have I purchased this? And especially if it's going in the truck, you know it's an expense. That's deductible. So absolutely, that fuel additive is absolutely deductible.
All right. And let's see, we have a question from Jamie. He wants to know if it's easy to go back to January of this year if you add all the info for the year. I'm assuming he's asking about TapApp.
Well, the short answer is no, you don't have to. But the better answer is yes, you want to, because what you want to do is, first of all, you're going to have to capture all those, those first 3 months. You're going to need to capture all those expenses when you do your taxes this time next year anyway. So why not go back and do it now while it's still fresh in your brain? It's going to be much fresher now than it will be a year from now when you're trying to remember what you did. So the answer is, do you have to? No. But should you? Yes. Oh, and the other reason is because then this first quarter is coming to an end. You want to see how profitable you are, and not only how profitable you are, but more importantly, the tax attached to that profit. If you have a significant tax liability sitting there, you want to know about it so you can prepare for it properly and possibly send in a quarterly payment. And that's another thing about TapApp, is you would call somebody like myself and we would talk through it and say you owe, I don't know, say $2,000 for the first quarter. I'm just making up numbers here, but you have a major, like you're going to have to, new transmission, or you're going to have to replace the clutch, or whatever it may be. That's going to be a pretty sizable outlay of cash. Well, we're not going to have you send in $2,000. What we'll do is we'll talk about that and say, let's just send them, $750 right now, and that way keeps the IRS happy, and it keeps the cash flow sitting in your bank where you can have the money to pay for any type of expense that pops up.
And I can elaborate just on the app a little bit, Jamie. It's very simple to go back. When you add your expenses, you just select a previous date from when the expense occurred, and that's the only difference. So it's really easy to go back and add those expenses. All right. We got a question from Shanta Walker. Does the IRS give a grace period to get set up paying your quarterly taxes for the first year, or will they charge a penalty?
Yes, they do. They allow you a grace period. If you didn't owe any tax the year prior, so like 2016, whatever your results were, if you qualified for any type of refund or you just broke even in 2016, they're not going to expect anything throughout 2017. And I'm sorry, I backed up a year too far. Let's move that forward a year. If you file your 2017 taxes, you don't owe any taxes, you don't need to necessarily make any quarterly payments in 2018 because the IRS doesn't expect it. However, if you're doing really well, I spoke to a driver here just yesterday that she's been a company driver for, I don't know, something like 17 years, and now she has her own authority, and she's doing really well. Well, we're giving her the proper advice to, yeah, let's send in some quarterly payments because you're going to stay on top of it that way. Technically, she doesn't need to, though, because the IRS doesn't expect it. She could keep that money. Discipline is the big issue here. Keep that money sitting in a savings account, earning interest for herself, and not sending it to the IRS. But that's the biggest issue, is at the end of the year, will she have enough discipline to not have touched that money knowing that it's earmarked for taxes? But that's another thing that, being, a TapApp member, we would walk through each one of your own personal situations and advise accordingly.
Awesome. Okay, and like we have another question from Deborah. She says, we are married, so it's like we're team drivers. So would that be $50.40 times 2 for per diem?
It certainly would. Well, if you said team drivers, so I'm assuming you both have CDLs. As long as you both have CDLs, then the answer is yes, it's times 2.
Awesome. Good question, Deborah. Okay, and we're getting tons of questions. Again, the other option, you guys, is you can use this little raise your hand option. I can unmute you if you just want to talk over there and ask Jim the question. I can unmute you if you click that little raise your hand option. So you're more than welcome to do that as well. Let's see here. Another question from Jamie. Do you help drivers get their own authority?
We don't do that ourselves, but we can hand you off to people that can. What we would do is we would get your information put together, like let's just say this first quarter's numbers put together, oh no, I'm sorry, you're talking about authority, not incorporation. Yeah, we don't do that ourselves, but we can hand you off to somebody that can help you with that.
And we can as well, by the way. So we refer people over to a company. So, you know, if you need help with that and you already have our information, we're glad to refer you somewhere as well. Okay, and looks like Carl did raise his hand, so we're going to see if we can get Carl to ask us a question here.
I'm talking through the...
Come there, Carl.
Hello?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
My question is a little bit more complicated. I have an employee who drives for me, and my question is, with this year, I will be paying her per diem for the obvious reasons that she can no longer deduct it. What happens if I overpay her on her as an expense on her W-2? Let's say you said it was like $61 a day. For example, let's say she was out 200 days, that'd be $1,200 or $12,000 approximately. What if I accidentally, because I was trying to pay her on a percentage, not per day, so I wouldn't have to keep track of the days. What if I paid her like $16,000? What would happen?
Okay, what you're doing then is, see, per diem becomes part of her wage. And so, you know, however much, like you're paying her like per mile or maybe percentage of the load, and then you're going to pay per diem because you don't have to pay any self-employment, or in your case, it would be payroll tax on that per diem. That per diem, in the eyes of the IRS, is a reimbursable expense for you. If you happen to overpay her, say you did pay her $16,000 instead of $12,000, well, all it's going to do, it's going to reduce. You can write off that full $16,000, by the way, as per diem. That's an expense that you're entitled to write off. It doesn't. There's no, as far as I understand, there's no limit to how much you can pay an individual per diem. I'm sure there's a limit out there because what you're doing is offsetting payroll tax yourself. But as long as it's within reason, you're going to be okay. What she's going to get, though, is that $16,000. Say she earned, you know, $40,000. You know, total. That's what you paid her throughout the year. Well, $16,000 of it was per diem. Well, then what that means, she's only going to have $24,000 of taxable income. $16,000 was not taxed. It's a benefit to her. She's going to have a smaller tax liability, but that $16,000 is also not going to be recorded for her own Social Security. So that's the only downside of that scenario, is that she's not going to put as much into her own Social Security. But she's not paying as much in tax, and this is what we advise all of our company drivers that are in that situation, is just open up your own personal individual retirement account and put that money in there yourself. And now you're managing it, and you're earning the money off of it instead of the IRS managing it for you. So for you to overpay her, in reality would be a win-win for both of you.
Okay, that's an excellent explanation. So I guess they're not going to come back and say, well, you shouldn't have only paid her $12,000 then.
No, not at all. In fact, we have a driver here earlier this year when the tax laws changed. Now, he's a company driver. His company what they did is they bumped his per diem per mile. I think it was bumped all the way up to 16 cents per mile, and he's out there an average of 450 miles a day. It was like $72 a day just in per diem. So on an average of 300 nights a year, I mean he's going to earn something like almost $22,000 just in per diem. Now it's good because that's all that money. That $22,000 is not going to be taxed for him. But once again, the downside is it's also not going to go to his Social Security. So that's the only thing you have to manage. But you have no worries or fears whatsoever. And the beauty is that your driver now, because she can't deduct as a W-2 employee, she can't itemize expenses any longer. And so you paying her that extra per diem will help her significantly.
Well, that's why we did it, because she can no longer take it off.
Perfect.
So
and we can help you too. I mean, your business, we can help advise you in situations like that as well.
now, do you guys do payroll too?
We don't, but I mean, it's part of the TAP app, but what we would do is hand you off to somebody that does do payroll. And in fact, I think, is there something on the horizon there, Brian?
There is. So we're probably looking towards the end of the third quarter. We do have a program here that we're going to be offering payroll that would be available to TAP app members as well. So that's a little down the line, but certainly something in the future.
Yeah, but there's a gazillion payroll services out there that are pretty easy to manage and everything right online. Now, some of them are kind of pricey, but once again, any money spent there is a deduction for you as well.
Got it. I don't want to take everybody else's time up. I did have one other question. Do you go and back audit previous taxes from other tax preparers?
All the time. In fact, most of our off-season, after April 15th, is spent looking at tax returns that have been filed improperly by other tax preparers. It's what we have drivers come to us, especially all of our new drivers, and they're like, whoa, how did you get these results for me? And we're like, because we know what we're doing. And we can go back as many years as you need to review past tax returns. And well, I don't want to say it, but typically it's literally 85-90% of the time we find enough to really justify doing an amendment and putting a bunch more money in your pocket if you've already paid those taxes.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome.
You bet. Thank you.
Carl. And Deborah's got a bunch of questions. I think she had raised her hand. Let me see if she can speak over the air. Okay, doesn't look. Oh, Deborah, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out if it worked with QuickBooks as well. Basically, I was an accountant and I've set up a spreadsheet showing all my trips, to and from, the mileages and so forth. And my husband keeps wanting me to learn QuickBooks, which that's one of the packages I haven't learned yet. So I'm trying to find out, would this TAP app work with QuickBooks or the spreadsheet that I have set up? Because I do keep all my receipts. I keep a folder in the truck, and I put them at the beginning of the folder every time we're out. And then when I go home, I sit down and enter them into my laptop. So I have them, and I move them, in the divided folders per month at that point in time. So I do have them, and we've been in business for almost 2 years now. And I have an accountant working with me out in California, but that's a far away from where I live. So it's kind of hard communicating and getting the documentation to her all the time. So I try to scan it using a scanner to send it to her, but at the same time, I'm still falling behind. So I'm trying to find out something much easier. This sounds like it might be workable for me. So that's what I'm trying to find out. If I do decide to go ahead and use the QuickBooks, will this TAP app work, or would that be necessary using the TAP app?
Well, and I don't know if Brian wanted to answer this or not, but you don't need QuickBooks when you have TapApp. You don't need, and quite honestly, if you haven't worked with QuickBooks before, you don't want to, because, I mean, we have a whole staff of CPAs here that know QuickBooks and so forth. I don't. And when I go in, I mean, the kind of the standing joke around the office is don't let Jim touch QuickBooks because I mess things up. And
yeah, see, I use Excel right now on my laptop just for my benefit, you know, for my own personal benefit to kind of keep track of things.
Okay, and see, this is what Brian's team here has done with TruckLogix. They've developed this app, you know, the TruckLogix app, which is, you know, part of TapApp here, is extremely user-friendly. We've put it into where it's like filling out one of our tax organizers, but just on a daily basis. You just go in and put in those expenses. It takes the place of having to use a program like QuickBooks. And it also takes out all of that frustration, too. Because QuickBooks, it's just from my point of view, it's extremely complicated.
Yeah, she kept wanting me to download QuickBooks and, you know, do all that, and I was, you know, driving, obviously.
Yeah, it would be easy for her then. It would be easy for her then. If you did all the work, then you could just go and just shoot your QuickBooks file to her. She populates it right into hers, and she doesn't have to do the work then. And that's the thing. But to learn QuickBooks is a challenge in itself. I can tell you that. Where TapApp or TruckLogix app, there is no learning curve there. It's very user-friendly. And the other thing, too, is you don't have to open up a laptop.
Right. Is there a way that I could look at it, you know, like go into the app and look at it once and let my husband view it before we decide to come on board with you? Because it sounds like it's exactly what I would probably need and something that would help me, you know, keep everything organized. Because she's a CPA, so, you know, and I've dealt with her. I've known her for years. She's a good friend of mine. And so she's, you know, she's helped me out of a couple of situations. But I wanted to make it easier not only for myself, you know, but for her as well. And also have, you know, readily access to documents. Like, for instance, our, you know, our servicing on our truck. Sometimes we have to go back, you know, if something isn't right, we have to go back. We have to have that receipt. Well, if I've already sent it to her in California, it's kind of hard to produce a receipt. So,
very good.
You know, if that would be the situation where I could scan it into TapApp like that, you have it, and I would still have the hard copy.
Very good. Correct. Yeah.
But is there a way that I can look at it, you know, and see if it's something that we need? Because that $75 a month is nothing if it's going to do what I need. I mean, it would be worth it to me.
I agree with you 100%. We are willing to charge more if you'd like. But
oh, no. That's wonderful.
Okay, good. No, Brian, do you want to get her information, whatever, and then you could send her a link to?
Yep, and you can. I can send you some stuff, Deborah. The app is free to download on the App Store, so you're more than welcome to do that. TruckLogix is a standalone application, so we have other versions of TruckLogix. We specifically work with Jim and his team at Trucker Tax Service to offer this TapApp program. So it really works out nicely because you get to use the app, and then Jim has access to it, so they can pull all your numbers in there for tax filing purposes. You can call them if you have questions, and it's all in a nice bundle package, and then they'll do your taxes for you. So there's no chasing documents around. There's no need for a spreadsheet. You just put everything right into the app, and you can use the app anywhere you are on your phone or tablet. You don't even have to have an internet connection to add stuff in there. It all updates and syncs when you get to a connection. So it's very easy to do, and it makes sure nothing gets lost, and you and Jim would be on the same page. So I'd be happy to send you some stuff.
And it would help me to do, you know, where I haven't done my quarterlies. I'm kind of bad about that, but I need to catch up on those especially. So this TapApp, can I go back? You can go backwards, right, and produce these things, or will I have to start and go forward? Because I heard what you told the other gentleman that was asking about going back to the first of the year. and it would be better if you go ahead and do it now versus wait to the end of the year. So it has the ability to go backwards, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
good.
yeah, and it's going to be the best way to do it too. And then what you can do is you can produce that profit and loss statement anytime you'd like. I mean, you know, for the quarter, if you'd like, to find out exactly if there is some tax liability there, how much you want to send that. But and the most important part is you can call in here and we'll talk to you about your situation and make sure that you're not sending too much to the IRS. I mean, even though, because we want to know your full story of what's coming up, maybe not in a couple of weeks, but maybe in a couple of months, and you need to have that cash flow. And so,
Correct.
The IRS understands that. You guys, you don't have a business that produces the same, revenue week in and week out. I mean, and the
Right.
expenses,
Not multiple
everything.
trucks and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and everything varies, and that's what we're here for. And the TAP app is such a great piece of technology because it's right there in the palm of your hand, and you can capture everything multiple times throughout a day if you'd like.
And that's what I need. That's exactly what I need. I mean, because I'm trying to not look at it as a trucker's point of view. I'm trying to look at it from an accountant's point of view. I've been out of it for a while, obviously, but I still have the accounting knowledge. It's just I don't like taxes. I've never dealt really with taxes. I did all the financials after everyone else did those. So, it's kind of hard
you know what?
to...
Guess what? I don't do taxes either. I'm the owner of the company, and I've never completed a tax return because I'm smart enough to know that there's people out there that are much smarter than I am. And when we complete a tax return for anybody, not only is it completed by a CPA, but it's reviewed by a separate CPA. That's why we can guarantee the best results available. And as a TAP app client, you actually have access all the way to those CPAs to address any type of financial or tax question out there.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so how do I give him my email and things like that for him to be able to give me your contact information? I know you sent it, but I don't know if I'm going to lose it once the seminar is over. And I'm driving now, so I can't really write that down.
Yes, ma'am. So, you signed up for the webinar with your email, so I should have that here. As long as that was a valid email you used.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you sent me some emails through. This is how I got onto the web seminar. Yes.
Right. So I will, as soon as it's over, I'll send you some information and we can go from there.
And,
okay.
and Deborah, if you don't
great.
see something, if you want, I mean, just I don't know who you use that Brian just changed the screen here. You can call our office here if you'd like. It's an easy number to remember. It's 888, so 888-799-1099. You can just call us. If you don't receive that email, you don't receive the email for some reason, just call here and we'll make sure you get it.
Yes, sir. I put it on my calculator on my dashboard, so it's
perfect.
Instead of calculating, I also get to enter phone numbers in that, which makes it a lot easier for me. But
good.
Yeah, you'll be hearing from me soon. So if you
Awesome.
can go ahead and send me that, and I can go ahead and download the app and look at it and see if it's something that's going to work for us. It sounds like it will, but I want to obviously make sure before I start paying another expense. But once he gets up, I'll start discussing it with him too, and we'll be contacting you guys.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
questions whatsoever, we're available.
All right. Thank you so much.
Certainly.
All right. Thanks, Deborah. All right, guys. So it looks like we're coming to the end here. We'll give you one last chance. If you've been holding your breath and you have a question to ask, feel free to, again, use that question box or raise your hand, and we can ask your question. Let's see. While we're waiting here for just a minute, I'll go back, show you guys the TAP app. This, again, is just roughly about our partnership with Trucker Tax Service. TAP app includes the monthly bookkeeping, year-end tax preparation, and you can do everything from the mobile app on your phone, on the road, super easy to use. So just keep that in mind. Looks like we got another question from Carl. I'm going to unmute Carl here.
A couple
Hey, Carl.
quick questions. Yeah, hello. A couple more quick questions. Do you have the capability of downloading settlements directly from a company, so I don't have to send them, or is that not an option yet?
That is an option. Who do you drive for, Carl?
Landstar.
Okay. So we actually have a pretty good relationship with Landstar, and that's something we could work out. So it would just be probably a matter of starting with just getting your settlement over to us, and then we could probably work on that. We do that with a couple companies already, not Landstar yet, but like I said, we do have a really good relationship with Landstar, and that's something we could pursue.
Okay. The other question is, if I'm already using a different bookkeeping service from another major trucking tax company, can I transfer that over to you guys? Because I've got, let's say, like 6 years worth of information.
Yeah.
Is there a way to move it?
Well, I guess it would depend on what you're using. If it has an export option, you would just want to send us those files. So what we would probably do is just get your current year added to the program for you. We could work on uploading that for you, so you don't have to retype that stuff for the current year. And then you would just keep the previous years, keep a hard file somewhere if you need to go back and reference them. It probably wouldn't be necessary to put them in the program, but you would definitely want to keep that file somewhere.
All right, thank you.
Okay, absolutely. All right, thank you again, Carl. All right. Looks like we got another question from click Deborah one more time. For some reason it's hard to unmute you, Deborah. It says you're self-muted. Okay, there you go. Deborah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was listening to the gentleman regarding Landstar and asking you the questions about that. Do you guys work with people who's owner-operators for UPS?
Currently, we do not, but usually those type of situations, it's just a matter of getting a couple people, start working with a couple drivers there, and we can work on doing some other things that kind of make it easier for the driver base overall. So I can't say offhand, Jim, unless you can think of somebody we work with that's a UPS driver.
Well,
I'm not aware of one.
We've worked with multiple UPS drivers doing taxes for them and so forth. I don't know if we have any, off the top of my head anyway, I don't know if we have any within TapApp right now. But the biggest issue would be is, Deborah, if you could even just help us open up a door there of somebody we can talk to. TruckLogix has the technology to do it. It'd be up to UPS if they allowed us that opportunity, like when you send us that, in technology, I mean, that technology is going to be out of my pay grade, but basically it would be up to a conversation that we could have with UPS, and if they're willing to do it, the question is absolutely.
Yes, we have a separate we're not in the company, we're not on the company side, we're on the owner-operator's side. So we do deal and work with, like relay loads and so forth, back and forth between the different terminals to other owner-operators. I could be passing the word around regarding that and asking them the questions and maybe get you, several of us signed up that way, but I don't really know about the company side. They don't really deal with us too much.
Okay, well, actually, that's kind of better in that respect, because we want to be on the owner-operator side anyway. So,
right.
Yeah, that's where we want to. That's what TapApp's focus would be, is on, because the company side, and that was just the way I described it was bad. What we need to do is just get a representative not necessarily company representative, but a representative there that we could start that conversation with.
Oh, okay, great. Then
Okay.
that clarifies it. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. All right. All right, I think that's it, guys. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to pull up Jim's contact information again here at the end. So again, if we're still holding back your questions and you just want to talk to Jim one-on-one, his phone number is right here, and his email address. And feel free to contact him. He'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And also, there is a link on their website. If you go to truckertaxservice.com, there's a link on there where you can sign up for TapApp. So if you're interested in that program, you can sign up right off the website, and then we'll get you going and get you started on that. So, Jim, if you want to wrap it up, any closing comments?
Well, the only thing is to emphasize what Brian said. Anybody that's on the call, you guys, you don't want to talk about whatever personal situation that you may have, just call me, and I'll be happy to go through it personally with you one-on-one, absolutely, anytime. And then the other issue is this, is TapApp is such an important piece of technology to help you guys capture those daily expenses. If you don't use something like TapApp, you must use something, because what you're doing is, if you don't use a daily type bookkeeping service, you're just literally throwing money out the window. As I said, with that scenario of the $5 a day, which is a very conservative number, I mean, easily pays for the service itself. And what you guys need to do, so many drivers, huge percentage of drivers out there that just don't manage their receipts properly and end up paying hundreds and, quite honestly, thousands of dollars more in taxes than they actually owe. So that's the most important topic I want to just make sure that everybody understands, that capturing and managing those expenses it's just critical for your business.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us today, Jim. I know it's tax season for you guys, so we appreciate you taking the time to come and answer questions from our clients, and we appreciate everybody that showed up today. Again, if any further questions, feel free to contact Jim. He's gracious enough to leave his information out here for you guys, and we'll even probably email this out to you afterwards, and if you didn't get a chance to show up, you'll probably get some information on this, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.